It is shocking to me to see this cannibalism that's happening inside the Republican Party right now, and the monies that's being spent, and the people who are aligning themselves to spend this money to run to take on these incumbents. And it seems like, from what I can tell on my end, it almost seems like this school choice conversation is kind of the sticking point for a number of representatives, or at least the incumbents. Well, we've got the opportunity to sit down with Travis Clardy, who is not new to the House of Representatives. He's been around, man, you've been around over a decade, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Jay.
I mean, you've been around longer than that, but specifically on the House of Representatives side of things, you've been here.
Yeah. I'm more than a decade old. Thanks for noticing.
There you go.
And Jay, thank you for having me on your show this morning. Appreciate the opportunity. And I got to say right off the bat, a shout out for your quality hat, your cap selection this morning.
Yeah, that's right.
From my good friends just across the way from me here in Nacogdoches at Lone Star Feed. Will be very appreciative of your advertising this morning.
So not a problem, man. Not a problem.
No, but good to be with you.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have noticed, we have interviewed a number of different representatives and people running and all this stuff. It is shocking to me to see this cannibalism that's happening inside the Republican Party right now, and the monies that's being spent, and the people who are aligning themselves to spend this money to run to take on these incumbents. And it seems like, I don't know, obviously you're more aware of this than I am, but from what I can tell on my end, it almost seems like this school choice conversation is kind of the sticking point for a number of representatives, or at least the incumbents.
Yeah, no question. I'll tell you, your level of kind of confusion and your observations are absolutely on point. I've never seen anything in my political experience in my life like we're going through now. So you're spot on there. The money in this is outrageous, but kind of going back to your first thought, Jay, that we as I've told folks before, for a whole bunch of pro-life Republicans, which we are, we sure seem like to engage in cannibalism. And you're seeing it everywhere, top to bottom. And that's one of my most frustrating things about this campaign. It's been mean. It's been nasty. Campaigns are supposed to be tough. We're in Texas. Politics is a contact sport. We know that. But I've never seen the level of mudslinging, the lies, the distortions, the misrepresentations, but more importantly, the just volumes of money and the attacks that have been just endless for us and those fellows like me that voted to support our public schools and our teachers and voted against vouchers. A bunch of rural Republicans who are strong conservative members, but are just being banged on over this issue. And like I said, because we had the audacity to vote in the way that we believe is the best interest of our district. Let me tell you, here's a number for you if you want to talk money. My wife, Judy, sitting here with me this morning in our law office, and hope some folks pile in. Sorry for the background noise.
No worries.
She did the number as of yesterday morning, so a full week out from the election, and already between the out-of-state billionaire PACs that were set up out of Pennsylvania, California, Michigan, Washington, D.C., wherever, and then the folks that are paying for my opponent's campaign, Texans for Lawsuit Reform, they're up to over $2.2 million running against me to beat me. It's not, with all due respect to my opponent, it's not about her. It's about me being willing to stand up, represent my district, and I'm in the way, and I'm between these billionaires and more billions of dollars. And that's what this fight's been about. But $2.2 million has been spent against me in the state rep race. And we're spending more money we've ever spent. I'm spending more money this campaign, Jay, than all of my other campaigns since I took office in 2013 combined. And we're going to get outspent 3 or 4 to 1. It's insane.
I don't think you're alone. I think you got a Speaker of the House is having the same, some of the same issues. You know, they're
No,
running.
and that's what's yeah, that's what's funny about these attacks, Jay, because folks here that are watching them in every district, we watch everybody's got their television stations or the
Right.
radio they listen to. And so it's the same attacks, and they have blanketed the airwaves. And
Yeah.
we've gone a very good campaign. Very proud of what we're doing, and very confident we're going to be successful, win re-election here next Tuesday.
Right.
But the what people are noticing, and when they travel around the state or they go somewhere else, they'll see the exact same ad, except it'll have Drew Darby's face in San Angelo, or Stan's in Abilene, or Gary's in Texarkana,
Yeah.
and but the attacks are so personal. I mean, these are personal, deep cutting attacks, and hey,
Right.
I'm a big boy. I'm not crying. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder, frankly, on our wives and our families than it is on the candidates. We at least get to do this and talk back and respond to it. But there's no need for it, and this really is, I think, Jay, a tipping point in Texas politics. I think if they are successful, they being the out-of-state billionaires, who do you really think they care about the educational opportunities for East Texas children? Is that why they're motivated to get engaged in these races and spend millions of dollars? I don't think so.
To me,
you want to know the truth?
yeah.
What do you do, Jay, when you want to know the truth? You follow the money.
Yep, that's exactly right. I had a gentleman tell me one time. He said, Jay, he said it boils down to sex or money. He said, and if there ain't no sex around, he said it's always about the money.
I'll have to remember that one.
In this situation, man, I mean, honestly, I hate to keep referring to this television show, but it almost seems like this is really showing that House of Cards is very relevant in the grand scheme of what we're doing in Austin. I mean, it almost seems like, because you're not cutting these deals, because you're not making you're not going along with whatever the engine is, then what we're going to do is we're going to flip this switch. You're no longer the boy. We're going to go over, we're going to find somebody who, for all practical purposes, is just a warm body. I mean, that's not a shot at Miss Schaffner, but just anybody else is now the candidate because they'll go along with XYZ. I mean, I'm sitting here looking.
Yep.
I looked at an ad that Abbott had put out for Schaffner just a few minutes ago, and he says three things in there, and I thought I wanted to hear your take on this. He said that she's going to be strong on the border. She's going to be strong when it comes to lowering property taxes, and she is going to be for school choice. Now, here's my question for you. Sure. Where do you fall on those three topics, starting with the border, then property taxes, then school choice?
Thank you for asking, Jay. These are the questions I wish we'd been talking about throughout this campaign, rather than just watching attack ad after attack ad after attack ad. So let's take those in order. Perfect question. Where am I on the border? I will defy you, Jay, to go find a record vote from the 88th legislative session through the 4 special sessions related to the border, whether it be funding or policy. Legislation like I carry to help provide funding to our border courts that are dealing with the magistration of all the charges that are being filed and processed on those deals. You will not find a single vote where I voted out of step with any Republican in our caucus. When we voted on these issues, this is one issue that absolutely unifies our party, which I want us to get back to. What you said on the front end. How do we get our party to heal and move forward as the party we're supposed to be, that we can be, that we have been? And one central organizing theme is we are all committed to securing the border, and that is our number one priority. It's the number one issue, and we're going to do what it takes to protect Texas. So you will not find a single vote that I cast any different than any other member of the Republican caucus, because when we had those votes, they were lockstep, absolutely universal, 100%. We all voted alike on every amendment, on any motion to table, whatever the procedure was. We were absolutely aligned. Nobody went to the back microphone and spoke against these things. And well, we shouldn't spend this much money. As Republicans, we're committed to securing the border. So it's very frustrating when Abbott says on talking about this person who he likes because they did vote for vouchers. And I'm not going to, members need to vote their districts. That's the way this whole process works. I don't represent the entire state, Jay. I represent 6 counties in rural East Texas.
Right.
If I had a affluent area in North Dallas, I might look at this issue differently. I don't think so. The more I've looked into the whole voucher thing, but back to the border, you couldn't slide a Woden phone book between any Republican's issue and the next Republican from top to bottom, left to right within the Republican caucus. So when he goes to one county and says, or one district says, this guy's great on the border, and then says that we need somebody strong on the border, you can't get stronger. Everything that my opponent has said, what she's going to do, Jay, is what I've already done and done in spades. So then you move to the next one. Can't be stronger on the border than me. I defy you to find a single vote to that effect. And we'll do it again. The next issue, warn you about that cough.
No worries.
Was on property taxes. I was sat there, fought and led the way on this issue, passed every piece of legislation, and we had a hard debate. And one thing I insisted upon as the member for 6 rural counties in East Texas was to have the $100,000 homestead exemption. Because in my district, Jay, half of the homesteads, these are people fortunate enough to own their own property, half of our homesteads are over $100,000 value or less. So this is real money to real people that need it. So they're not having to pay the school ISD tax because they're going to be below the homestead exemption, which we insisted. The governor wanted a proposal that was all compression. And what that means is the people who own the most property are going to get the most bang for the buck. And it kind of left out the people that I represent. And so I was pleased that the Senate held their ground on that. I was in the minority in the House. Our speaker wanted full compression. I disagreed. And I'm glad that the process worked and we were able to get full compression. But you can't be stronger on cutting property tax than I am and making sure that we spend our tax dollars wisely. So then you get to vouchers. Or school choice, as they would say. And Jay, there's a reason they've been trying for 30 years to get this passed, and every time they come back, they've changed the name. If it's such a good idea, why do you have to keep rebranding it? And so it's a voucher is a voucher. The bard said a rose by any other name is still a rose, and a voucher is a voucher is a voucher. So it's transferring public taxpayer public education dollars to private schools, and then all the expense that goes with it. We have school choice in Texas, Jay. I support school choice in Texas. I support our homeschool network and the people that choose to do that with their children. That's their right, and they have my complete and total support. I support our charter school networks. I wrote the second charter in the state of Texas for the SFA and ISD charter school. So I'm very comfortable and like the innovation that's come with some of those schools. Have there been problems? Yes, and there's an important part to that story. There were some problems with the charter school ramp up of waste and fraud, but I think they will pale in comparison to what we would see if we adopted right off the bat a universal school choice program. It would make that pale in comparison to what would happen with the amount of money that they're trying to get their hands on. But then school choice, I support private schools. We actually took our youngest twins. Now my baby boys are 33, 4, are twins, and the school here in Nacogdoches has really had some difficult times. And we made a decision. I made a choice as a parent, and we bought a property and moved them up, and eventually they graduated from Brook Hill Private School. But Jay, it never crossed my mind to call down there to Beaumont and say, "Hey, Jay, I want to send my kids to private school. Why don't you help pay for it?" That was my choice. We wrote the check. I'm happy to do it, proud to do it, and I exercise school choice. A lot of our private schools, Jay, don't want vouchers. I've talked to one in Henderson. There's only 3 in my district that are accredited. And they said they don't care what we pass. They're not taking them because they know what you know and what I know, that once you start taking money, state or federal, sooner or later, strings are going to come attached. They're going to tell you what to do. And that's not why they established their private school. And they also know that if they take a voucher from this kid, but not from that kid, hello, lawsuit. Here comes the discrimination cases under federal laws, which we can't immunize them from in the state legislature. So anyway, you've kind of hit a sore subject here for me, Jason. Let me let you ask another question.
No, the thing is, man, the thing I want people to see is especially down here in Newton, because we're relatively new to your leadership, right? And
Second term, yeah. I'm finishing my second term. First term with Newton, finishing the term. Yeah.
first term with Newton. And the thing I want people to understand down here in Newton is the fact that this is a school choice conversation. This is nothing more than a school choice or a voucher or whatever other label they want to put on it. There is nothing, this is not about the border. Some of this stuff is misdirection.
Yeah.
This is
it's all misdirection.
When you've got Cruz sitting there. First of all, I don't know Cruz, never met Cruz, but everything I've seen of Cruz, he's one of these grandstanding types. And to be honest with you, whenever I saw the lineup outside of Donald Trump, because, if Trump ends up being the nominee, I'm voting for Trump. You already know that. But at the same time, right. I'm sitting here going, why are these guys aligning behind this individual who is obviously a school choice and vouchers individual? And then you made a statement in one of the forums that I saw, one of the forums that was down here in Newton County, it was put on by the Republican Party, and you made a statement, and I thought, once again, follow the money, because you had made a statement about how the money will actually be handled if vouchers comes into place. So, and that's not just going to be, it's not going to be like the IRS sending a refund back to the parents or the people, right? This is going to be This is going to be managed by an organization or a business to process that money out to these situations. Am I right about that? Give me some clarity on that.
You were absolutely correct. And let me just point out a few things that were in the bill. One of the problems we had with this bill from the get-go, one, that the governor was playing hide the ball, and we tried to get instruction for him. We tried to get these things figured out. What's this going to look like? What do you want it to look like? And we were playing 20 questions trying to guess at what was on the governor's mind. 5-6 years ago, when the governor endorsed me and supported me and asked me to carry his legislation on irony of irony, all things teacher pay raises and contention, when he believed in public schools like I still do,
right.
But back then, I knew what he wanted, and we worked together on that. But on this one, we tried to get guidance what this looked like. There was a supplemental appropriations, put $500 million off to one side to be used for, I'm going to call it, a pilot program. I've said all the way along, and Jay, when I talk to folks, I said, here's what makes me the craziest about this whole fight that we're in, and the attacks that have been leveled at me and my friends, that, when you look at the issue, here's what we should get to some common ground, and that is this. We all want our taxpayer dollars to be spent the wisest way possible, most prudent, financially responsible way, where we get the best bang for our taxpayer dollars on all issues, but particularly public education. Everybody agrees to that. We also want, I believe, all of us want the next generation of Texans, the next group of kids to be the best prepared, best educated, best trained, smartest generation of Texans ever.
Right.
We all agree on that. So let's work towards policies that will do that. So we went in this, and I've always been open to any innovation that will make public education better. I'm of the opinion you don't spend money on education, you invest money on education. It is the surest, best calculator, predictor of someone's success, not only in their financial future, but in their personal lives. Educated people, we can't have a democracy. This republic does not exist without an informed electorate, their ability to analyze things, which, oh, by the way, is what I'm counting on the folks to do next Tuesday and see through all this nonsense. I'm confident that the people in East Texas got a whole lot more common sense than these carpetbagger billionaires give us credit for. So we'll find out Tuesday. But with the way the program works with the vouchers, a couple of things I'll just throw at you real quick, and I can send you the
Sure.
bill. It changed over and over. Sometimes the homeschoolers are in, and sometimes they're not. And sometimes it's going to have everybody, sometimes it's not. But things just stayed in there constantly. And in the last version, HB1, which we stripped the voucher out of, and that was and I was that vote proud to do it. But it calls for an 8%. I'm going to call it a vendor fee. It's a management fee paid to an outside entity. It calls for the outsourcing of the management of educational savings accounts or vouchers. That comes right off the top. So to use 8%. The number we just talked about, the $500 million, Yeah, the $500 million, 8%, that's $40 million right off the top that goes in the pocket of a company that are owned and related to these billionaires that are funding this campaign. So you go, well, that's $40 million. Why would they care? Well, where they care is they want all taxpayer dollars that are go to public education subject to vouchers, which is our state portions around 35, $40 billion. Let's just cut that in half, $20 billion. That's maybe $10 billion, Jay. Then all of a sudden you take 8% off the top. That's an $800 million contract, brother.
Yeah.
People do funny things for $800 million. And they'll lie, cheat, and steal for $800 million. And so that's why they're mad at me. It's not about my opponent. I'm standing with my colleagues between them and a big, big pile of money. And from their point of view, I've got to go. So there's that. There's the fee right off the top. And that's not a penny of that 8% goes to a kid, to a teacher, to a building, to a school, nothing. Right. It goes straight to the bottom line of those companies. Secondly, when you look at the money we're spending, so in Texas, we fund kids on what's called the basic allotment. And then the schools are paying on a weighted average daily attendance, butts and seats at a particular time when they take the census. So right now, our schools, Newton, Michelle Barrow there, your superintendent there, she'll get, $6,200. I'm around the number per kid in the basic allotment. But the bill's going to call for us to get that. Now, Jay, stop me when this starts sounding conservative to you. We're going to give the school that's losing a kid $10,000 as a whole harmless, not $6,200, $10,000. So we're going to pay you $10,000 not to educate a kid, and then we're going to take another $10,000 and give to the private school that they go to. So we're going to spend $20,000 for what the state's currently providing the $6,200 basic allotment. Tell me when that starts sounding conservative to you. And we know what happens in other states. Google up Arizona vouchers. It is not only going to bankrupt their education funding, it's going to bankrupt their entire state. Their entire state budget is in jeopardy because of universal vouchers they put in three years ago. This is happening across the country. The more you look at it, the more this deal stinks, and it doesn't work, and it hurts our schools, particularly rural schools, Jay, and those are my people.
But it makes complete sense when there's so much money to gain. If we want to talk about for a second, believing in our kids, and our kids are the future, and then we want to talk all this stuff, and then we're like, yeah, we need to spend $2.5 million to defeat Clardy over here in District 11, so that we have these hundreds of millions of dollars that come in like clockwork every year, part of the budget every year. That right there to me seems, well, it actually leads me to another concept altogether, where it's not really another concept, but it is where corporate entities are seeking to control Austin, and thus control the state of Texas. It's troubling to me because, I told one of the other gentlemen who's running in District 21, I said, the thing that irritates me the most, just as a man and a father, is whenever I have a politician who tells me one thing, goes up to wherever the secret rooms are, and the closets and the backroom deals are made. Because, honest to God, if you think about this could not play out any better than a House of Cards episode. It's just what it is. This is wicked to me.
Yeah. Well, and it's not without precedent. And I do want to speak on behalf of the institution I'm very, very proud to serve in. I'm very humbled by the opportunity. I've enjoyed it. I've loved it. I've learned so much, and I'm very proud of what we've done. And my staff and I think, we've done a good job for East Texas, and we've accomplished a lot of things I'm proud of. And so there are great people there doing good work that care about their people, care about their constituents. There's a lot of good down there. But Jay, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you what you just described is it's not wrong. And I tell you what, it's not without precedent. If you want to, you can go back about 20 years, all the STARS test that nobody likes, everybody hates. We all
Right.
have fought to limit down, and we do have to comply with federal law on some of the testing and accountability rules. But that said, we've been working hard to get rid of these tests that teachers hate. It's bad for students, drives parents crazy. But how did we get them in the first place? They came to my predecessors 20 years ago said, we've got to have accountability. We've got to have No Child Left Behind. We've got to do these things, and we got to get bang for our taxpayer dollars. And they sold the narrative under that. What they didn't really tell us is there's a corporation that makes all the books and all the stuff and makes billions of dollars on that test. And so, hey, what we're really trying to do is funnel some money over here to our buddies who run the Pearson Company. That's what they didn't tell us, and we're stuck with the STARS test. And on this one, they tell us we want to help the special needs kids. We got to help the kids trapped in public schools, which are very laudable goals, which I absolutely agree with.
Right.
And yeah, when we had a bill that would have done exactly that in a scaled model with $500 million, which was prudent and reasonable, and we can ramp up and see if this works. And if it does, then let's build on it. If it doesn't, let's try something different. We had a very responsible, reasonable approach to introduce some level of school choice for the populations that they claim they want to help. That was not enough. They're not interested in what they're talking about. They're interested in getting their hands on the real money. But if they tell people what they're really up to, there would be pitchforks and torches on the ground surrounding the Capitol. And so what I've been trying to do, and it's been hard. I have a good sized megaphone as a state representative and some money to spend on a campaign, but I don't have the unlimited resources. Jay, if you take what's in Abbott's campaign, the 4-packs that we know of, that are active and sending mail every day to this district and pay for it collectively, and then what TLR's doing, paying for her campaign. You take their total nest eggs in those packs, it's $200 million, Jay.
Wow.
And so the introduction, the level of money, and the fact that these people come in here, and it galls me to no end. And I'm watching my language. I know we're on the airways.
Hey, it's all good.
But that these carpetbaggers come in here and they're going to act like they care more about our kids than we do. And they know better than us what's good for Texas public policy. And don't forget, Jay, our forefathers put it in the Constitution, in the front part, not in the amendment, that we shall provide. This is, if you want to be a constitutional conservative, then you must stand by your public schools, because we shall provide a free, fair, and equitable public education to all kids in Texas, which, by the way, also happens to be the right policy. And when I talk to people, Jay, it has served Texas well. When I get a group of people like I did at Toledo Bend South or there in Newton, I say, hey, just humor me here. Stand up, raise your hand if you got a family member that's a teacher in a public school. Okay. And that's the third of the crowd. Okay. If you got a retired teacher, another bunch of crowd. If you got somebody who works in administration, drives a bus, works in the cafeteria, and administration on the school board, stand up. And I say, okay, now stand up if you graduated from a public school in Texas like me and you did.
Done.
And like my family has.
Yeah.
It's everybody in the room. And that's what I tell people, folks, this is us. And these billionaires from out of state don't care about us. They think we're stupid, Jay. It's like the song that came out this last summer, The Rich Men North of Richmond. Yeah. One of these mayors all pop in from Alexandria, Virginia. Hey, the rich men north of Richmond, they're here. They're not coming. They're here in this campaign to get their hands on Texas dollars. And when I told the folk in Henderson the other day, they think that we don't know. Yeah. But Jay, I know that we do. Yeah. We know what this is about. We can smell a rat and we can follow them up.
I think that's one of the things that maybe frustrates people in the South the most is whenever I don't know if it frustrates us. It's humoring on some level when we're underestimated. And when we're underestimated, we don't mind fighting. You know what I mean? And so to me, let's do this. Let's kind of wrap this thing up a little bit, but I want you to hit some high notes about what is your focus post being elected on the 5th. What are some of your key priorities that you see that need to happen immediately? Because, everybody's screaming about the border. and the border is an issue.
No doubt.
Property taxes, we're actually going to get some help on, coming into 2025, we'll be getting some help there. But what are some of the things that you see that need to be attacked?
Let me hit on a couple of different fronts. One, let's start politically. The very thing we started with, some of us are going to have to get our party back together. And am I going to have some sore feelings and some hard feelings? And, I'm going to have some issues to work through on my own with certain folks, the way this campaign's gone down. But at the end of the day, we've got to come back together as a party. So I want to be one of the leaders within our party to get those that I think are like-minded. And we have some very strong leaders that have really tried to stay above the fray. But,
Right.
We've got everybody fighting with everybody right now. And the real battle is coming in November. Because if we don't make a change in the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we're not going to fix the border problem.
Agreed.
And we can't take another 4 years of this job. So I want to be part of the group that heals and works on some stuff. Now I may have to dish out a little tough love here and there, Jay, but that's all right. We'll do what we need to do, and I pledge I will work together to do that. From a policy standpoint, a couple of issues that are very important to us. I work and I serve on the Sunset Commission. I appreciated Speaker Phelan nominating me that a couple of years ago. I'll also say he and I need a little work. We need to do a little work on our relationship going forward. And we will do that. We're neighbors in East Texas, and he's done a lot of good things. And, appreciated last session. I was able to carry the legislation, and it was a lot of work. It was a tough fight, but we were able to get SFA into the University of Texas system. That's a huge boon to greater East Texas, $125, $140 million going into our local economy. That's a big deal for us. But going forward, the thing I think, and I serve on Sunset. I'll finish that term this cycle. But I carry legislation to deal with infrastructure. I think it's very important for Southeast Texas, particularly in Newton County, when we deal with flooding issues. And a lot of the things that, is either too much or not enough. And that's the plight of Texans, but particularly in Newton with the flooding. We have a real crisis is coming on infrastructure, which is another thing that galls me about the whole voucher thing. We've got real problems to solve, not making things up about vouchers. And so when I look at the infrastructure needs, go look what happened in Odessa last summer. A city of 100,000 people lost water for 3 days in the middle of August or July, whatever it was. It was not a good thing. We've had systems here in Nacogdoches where these pipes are all the same age, they're collapsing. We're going to have to spend a lot of money rebuilding this. And our cities and counties need help from the state where we have a huge surplus so that they don't have to raise local taxes on the city and county to do that. So that's a focus of mine on the infrastructure. I think I want to really pay attention to that. But again, then we come back. But my very first thing we're going to do, if I have my say on it, that's going to be to do what Governor Abbott kept us from doing, and that is putting the money into our schools and getting our teachers the pay raises they deserve. That was my most frustrating thing about this last session. I was burned on both ends when they said on day 135 we're gonna impeach Attorney General Ken Paxton. And you probably know this, may not, but I spoke against it. It was wrong procedurally. The timing was wrong, and I think I was borne out that I was correct in my analysis that it was the wrong thing to do, and I cast that vote against Ken Paxton's impeachment. I would do it again. I'm the only one that made that vote and voted against vouchers. So I'm kind of your East Texas political unicorn, I guess. Right. But on the thing we have to do is, and what frustrating about the impeachment, instead of having 5 days left of session and pushing to get our teachers those pay raises, which many of us had promised with a $30 billion surplus, we're messing around with an ill-timed, ill-advised, ill-prepared impeachment proceeding, which was doomed to failure from the get-go. So we didn't get those teacher pay raises. That has to be our first priority coming back. We got to take care of our teachers and our schools. They've been put unnecessarily in a hardship and deficit budgets because the governor said he would not give teacher pay raises until he gets vouchers. And then to come out now and the big lies, I say it, is that Clardy voted against, and their other guy voted against teacher pay raises. We had one bill that we voted on that died in the Senate for teacher pay raises. I will always support teacher pay raises, but there was never a vote for teacher pay raises because Governor Abbott made the author pull the bill down because he threw a tantrum because he didn't get his way on vouchers. I guess he had some upset billionaires who want those vouchers pretty badly.
You might be right. You might be right. Man, I really
But those are a
appreciate
few
you.
things I'd like. Those are a few things I'd like to work on, Jay. But there's always plenty of work to be done in the vineyard when you're laboring for the Lord. And in Austin, there's always something to do.
No doubt, no doubt. I really appreciate you sitting down, man. I know we're having to do this on Zoom. Maybe at some point, post Tuesday, we could sit down and just kind of reconnect and really talk out some of the things about moving forward. If we can get past this money machine of cannibalism inside the Republican Party,
Yep.
it's crazy to me that the it's crazy to me that the biggest issue for the Republicans is not the Democrats, it's themselves.
Yeah.
It feels like a church split. You know what I mean?
Amen, brother. Hey, and the
It
thing
feels
is
like a church
it's
split.
like it's like we said, hey, here we just found the playbook that the Democrats ran in 1974, which has
Indeed.
put them in the political wilderness for the last 40 years. And we say, oh, let's run this play.
Yeah.
Let's don't repeat history. Let's learn our lesson from what not to do. And
Yeah.
we are the party of the right ideas, Jay. We do believe in conservative values. We are pro-life and pro-Second Amendment. We're all those things in our best moments. We have the right ideas. We just have to get back on track and get back on message, because that's what the people of Texas want. That's what the people of this country need. Texas leads, the rest of the country follows. And, inside every American, Jay, there's a Texan trying to get out.
That's right.
And
That's
we
right.
need to step up as the Texas Republican Party and chart the path, get back on the path of Ronald Reagan, get back on the paths that lead to economic prosperity, that lead to strong national defense, that protect our shores and borders, that low taxes, low regulation, support families. Let's be who we are, and let's start talking about the things that matter.